Hello everyone, welcome to the third lecture of our Python programming series. In the previous lecture, we learned about the variables and the various data types that those variables have and about how to convert one data type into another. Today we are going to learn about how to actually perform calculations using the values we have been storing in our variables. To do that, we'll have to learn about operators and expressions. These concepts are used in almost every Python program you'll ever write, right? So, by the end of this lecture, you will be able to understand what operators are. You will be able to perform arithmetic operations in Python. You will be able to write simple expressions and you will learn how Python decides the order in which the calculations are performed. And you will also be able to write programs using mathematical expressions. These are fundamental concepts that will help you throughout your entire programming journey. So, before learning something new, let's quickly revise what we learned in the previous lectures. First of all, we learned that variables store data. Then we learned that Python has different types of data types, such as integer, boolean, string, and float. Then we also know that we can use the type function to check the data type of a variable. Like if you don't know the data type of a variable but you want to know, you can just, what can you do? Do you remember from our previous lecture? Print type of and the variable name inside it, right? Super easy. And then we also learned about type conversion. As I said, we learned why we need type conversion, right? So let's just revise it once. Here I have created a new file, lecture 3. You can just make a new file using this thing right here. Okay. So age is equal to 19. Age is here. Age is a variable here. 19 is the value that variable stores, right? And what is the data type of age? If we want to find out, if we don't know, then we can just go print type of age. By the way, what do you think the data type of age is here? The value stored in it is 19. Think about it. Let's see. Yes, if you thought it was int, then you were correct. Then first of all, what is an operator? An operator is a symbol that performs an operation on one or more operands. It tells Python what action to take. Imagine I have two numbers, 10 and 5, and I want to add them together. How am I supposed to convey to Python that I want to add them together? I will use a symbol known as an operator. It it just performs an operation on one or more values, right? So it's always easier to understand with an example. If we take 10 plus 5, right? So this plus here is the operator, right? It is operating on these two values. Okay. 10 here is an operand, 5 is another operand, and plus sign is the operator. Plus sign is the operator here. Operators are, by the way, operands are simply the values that the operator works on, right? So 10 and 5 here are operands, and the plus sign here is the operator. Easy, right? So what is an expression then? An expression is very closely related to operators, right? Because You need an operator in the expression. An expression combines values, variables, and operators to produce a result, right? It, an expression is a combination of values, variables, and operators that Python can evaluate to produce a result, right? So what we typed here, 10 plus 5. This whole thing is an expression, okay? 10 plus 5 is an expression here. Not 10, not plus, not just 5. This whole thing. And this is an expression because it tells Python what we want it to do, right? If we evaluate this, Python will, if we evaluate this, we will get 15, right? Let me just show it to you once. Print 10 plus 5. Let's just say take some other number. 15 plus 20, right? So 15 plus 20 is our expression here, okay? 15 and 20 are the operands, plus is the operator, and we already know what our print function is. I hope you know. And yeah, here we get our result. This expression told Python what we wanted it to do. That's how programming is, right? We are supposed to give instructions to a computer. So these are some other examples of expressions. Yes, you can add a variable to a number as long as the variable is not a string, right? It's compatible. It's an integer. For example, 2 is an integer here. Age should also be an integer, a number. And yeah, and these two as well, we'll talk about that, right? Then arithmetic operators. These are the most common operators, right? Python provides several arithmetic operators. These operators allow us to perform mathematical calculations. Today we'll learn about addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, floor division. I'll tell you what it is in a bit, right? Then modulus and exponent. You've obviously heard about the first four: addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. And floor division, modulus, and exponent might be new things for you. Exponent, actually, you might know what an exponent is, but modulus and floor division might sound weird right now. But we'll look at each of these one by one and we'll solve examples and you'll understand them, right? You don't need to memorize them per se. You'll understand them as you practice them, right? Nothing hard here. So the addition operator obviously adds two numbers together. Here we have an example, print 15 plus 5. We already did this, right? 15 plus 20. So we can also do this using variables, right? If we have a variable, let's take a variable x, assignment operator. What value should we take here? Let's take 5. Then y equal to 19, and then sum. We name our variable sum and we add x plus y here, right? So, and then we can print sum. And here we get 24, right? And of course, if we want to do the same thing but we want to take the number from the user, we can just use the input function, right? We can say x is equal to input, please enter first number y is equal to input. Please enter second number, and sum is equal to x plus y. Let me just put some space here, just so it's a little easier to read. Yeah, and we can print this sum. So yes, do you think these lines of code are correct? Do you think these will work? If you have watched the previous lecture, you should know the correct answer. Do you think this will work? Will it give us the sum of whatever numbers we input? Let's try it out, shall we? If you already know the correct answer, well done. Let's see. Let's use, we'll just use simple numbers. Please enter first number, we enter 10. Second number, let's enter 20. So, moment of truth. 10, 20. What is this? Is this a sum of 10 and 20? No, it isn't. Why is this happening? Can you remember? Yes, it's because input returns a string. So, since input returns a string variable, since input returns a string value, basically the 10 that we enter here, it is being taken as a string, and 20 as well. So when we add this plus sign is actually concatenating them, right? Because these are strings. We learned about concatenation in the previous lecture as well. So yeah, if you print this thing, this is what you get, 10 plus 20 joined together. But this is not what we are trying to do, right? So do you remember how we are supposed to correct it? Yes, using type conversion. We just write int here and enclose this input function in the brackets. Same with y. Otherwise, the types will be incompatible, right? You can't add an integer to a string, so even this concatenation won't happen. Do you want to see it once? 10, 20, and yeah, see, type error. You can't add a integer and a string. So int. So do you think it will work now? Let's see. Enter, and yes, we're getting 30. It's working now. So as I said in the last lecture, you have to remember that the return type of input is a string. So if you want to use the input you take from the user in a calculation, you have to convert it. You can also convert it to float as well. If you want the answer in decimal points, right? You could convert it to float, and then you can convert this to float. You can also convert the sum to float, but we'll just do this here for now. So we enter 20, 10, and see, we're getting our answer in decimal points, and that's that. It's written here, right? If one operand is a string and the other is a string as well, then the plus sign, the addition operator, joins them with using concatenation, and mixing types requires conversion. That is what we just did, right? And then subtraction subtracts the right operand from the left one, right? Just as we do in mathematics. Can obviously try this as well. Go here, just and we'll just clear this terminal. Let's see, what should we do? Print 10 minus 5. Subtracts the value on the right side from the value on the left side, right? And we're getting 5. Let's just get a new terminal. Let's kill this terminal. New terminal. It just looks better. And yeah, we're getting 10 minus 5, 5. Can we do 5 minus 10? It will subtract 10 from 5 because subtracts the value on the right hand side from the value on the left hand side. We run it and we're getting minus 5. That's nice. And yes, of course, we can do this using variables as well. A is equal to 13, A is equal to 12, print. You can either do print A plus B right here. This will give us an answer. Or you could write a variable and assign the value of A minus B to it. Wait, did I just do A plus B? Oh, I'm sorry. So yeah, you could do this and print. I'll show it to you with A minus B as well. Print answer. So we're getting 1 here, and you could also straight up do print A minus B, getting the same result, 1. And we can also do it without variables as we did in the beginning. 13 minus 12. Yes. So there are multiple ways to do the same operation, right? Let's move on from subtraction. You can look at this example and you can try it on your systems once. And we'll move on to multiplication. I think it's easier to learn with examples, right? Oh. The same thing, like, the rules for multiplication don't really change from addition and subtraction. In the same way that you did addition and subtraction, you could do it in 3 different ways. You could just print 2 into 3. Yeah. This here is the operator for multiplication, okay? Like when we solve it on notebooks, we tend to write this sort of thing, but in Python, this is the operator for multiplication, okay? An asterisk. So we can run this, and we're getting 2 multiplied by 3, 6. In the same way that we did addition and subtraction, we could also put these values into variables. We'll just take the same values just to compare them. Yeah, print A into B, and this works as well, 6. Or we could do answer is equal to A into B, then in the next line we print our answer. And in the same way that we did sum, you could also take the input from the user using the input function. Just remember, what do you have to remember when taking input? You have to convert it into an integer or a float value, right? Otherwise it will be a string. You can multiply a string with a number. I'll show you what happens then. We do something like A is equal to, do you remember how we assign strings to variables? What do we have to do that? Yes, we use quotation marks, and let's use Alice. Then if we take B as 3 and we try to multiply it, A to B, and we print it, so what do you think will happen? We couldn't add or subtract a string and an integer, right? So could we multiply it? What do you think? Like, you feel like it will throw an error, right? Because you couldn't add a string and an integer and you couldn't subtract it. So you probably shouldn't be able to multiply it as well, right? Let's see. Let's try to use our imagination a little. We run it. Oh, what's this? Alice, Alice, Alice. It's giving us Alice 3 times. We multiplied Alice by 3 and we're getting Alice 3 times. It's working. So yes, this is a new concept. If we multiply a string by an integer, then or a number, then we get like as many times as we multiplied it, right? If we multiply Alice with 3, we get Alice 3 times. If we multiply it with 5, we'll get Alice 5 times. It just repeats itself as many times, right? We do something like, let's take this string and how about multiplying it 20 times? Run, and yeah, we're getting our answer, right? So that's that for multiplication. The same thing is written here. Multiplies numeric values with strings. Multiplying by an integer repeats the string. We learned that. These are some examples that you can practice. Print 7 into 6. Print ha into 3 times. We already did this, right? Then there's division. So obviously division operator is used to divide one number by other, right? So here's a new thing. First of all, let's just open a new terminal, right? You could, like I told you, there are multiple ways to do the same operations, to do the same set of operations, but you can, it feels neater, like it feels more neat to assign variables first and then do it. So if we take a is equal to, let's say, 10, and b is equal to 5, and we print a divided by b. As you can tell, this here is our division operator in Python, right? So what I'm trying to talk about here is, what do you think the answer should be? As in, it should probably be 2, right? 10 divided by 5. 5 2s are 10. You should get 2. So since a is an integer and b is an integer, if you don't believe me, I'll just print type of a, print type of b, run it, and yes, a and b are both integers, right? The data types of both a and b are integers. So if we divide two integers, we should get an integer. That's what comes to mind, right? Let's test that. A divided by b, and we run it. Oh, what's this? 2.0? How could that be? We are dividing two integers, but we're getting a float value. This is because the division operator always returns a float value, right? Just like the return type for the input function is a string, the division operator always returns a float. So yeah, that's that for that. If you want to try a few more examples, we do a is equal to what? What else? Let's take a bigger number. A is equal to 400, b is equal to 600, and we print a divided by b, run it. Yes, it's working, and we're getting our answer. Alright, so let us move on to floor division now. Floor division, you might have already learned about addition. No, you obviously have learned about addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, right? So you might be wondering, what is floor division? And it might look a little scary at first, but it's very simple. It's basically, if I told you when we were doing division, right? The division operator, the answer it gives is always in a float value, right? It always has a decimal point. We saw that. But what if we are doing calculations that need an integer value? We don't want a decimal point, right? In that case, we use float division. So let us look at it. We take a is equal to, let's take an easy number, let's take 10, and b is equal to 5, and answer is equal to 10. Let's divide it normally first and then use float division just so you can look at it once, right? Look at the difference once. And print answer. If we run it, what is the answer we'll get? 2.0 with a point. And if we take these same numbers and let's just put it in a comment, right? Let's put answer, cite a comment. Do you remember how we put comments in Python? Yes, using a hash. So instead of this, let's write something like, what should we name this variable? Let's name it floor div is equal to 10. Now the operator for floor division is this thing, this, okay? And 5. Obviously we have to change this variable here to floor div. If we print this, we get 2. When we were doing division, when we were using the division operator, we were getting 2.0, but if we use floor division, we can get it without a decimal point, right? There are some programs that require an integer, right? That's where floor division comes into use. And what if we use floor division on float values? If we use floor division on integers, then we get an integer result. But what if we use floor division on float values? Shall we look at it once? Let's just kill this terminal. Let's take a variable a is equal to 7.5. Let's use 7.5, and b is equal to 2.5. So if we use float, these are float values, right? 7.5 and 2.5 are float values. If we use floor division on this, we do a floor division b, and we print this. What do you think we'll get? Do you think we'll get an integer value or a float value? Let's run it and check. We get a float value, but as you can see, yes. And if we try to take some other values, such as what should we take? Let's take any random value. 300. We'll take this as let's take it 500, right? And if we perform float division on this, we run it, what should we be getting? I accidentally demonstrated it with an integer again. Uh, this is when you know you're tired. Let's do something like 50.16 and 30.17. Yeah, now it should be fine. We run it and we're getting 1.0. Why are we getting 1.0? If we try to divide it normally, we would get no, why am I using a calculator? I have this thing right here. Let's try it, right? We'll put this answer inside a comment and we'll divide another variable named answer and we perform normal division on it. Okay, if we run it, this is the actual answer of 50.16 divided by 30.17, right? This long thing. But when we use float division, we get 1.0. That is because when we use float division on two float values, then the answer is basically rounded off to the nearest whole number, and we do get a decimal point because we are dividing float values, but it's always 0.0, right? We could try it if we do something else. Wait a second. Division B. Yeah, let's change the value of these two to 12.151 and let's take a smaller value, 10.2. If we try this, 0.0. See? After the point, it will be 0. If we take 16.66 and this will take it as 26.234 and just taking random values. Again, 0.0. Why is it always 1.0? Let's take a 141, bigger number. And yeah, 8.0. See? That's about it for float division. It's nothing. See, that's about it for float division. It's nothing too difficult. So yeah, that is float division. It's pretty easy. Like, it might sound weird because you've never heard of it before, but in the end, that's all there is to it. What's written here? Shall we read it once? Returns only whole number part of division, drops any fractional remainder. Yes, we know that. Use when you need integer results, indexing, count of full groups. Yeah. So our next operator is modulus operator. You probably have not heard of a modulus operator before as well. And honestly, when I started learning Python, I was a little confused by the modulus operator for this reason and that. I was confused between the float division operator and the modulus operator actually, but they're different, right? Modulus operator gives us the remainder after division, right? It doesn't give us the answer of the division, it gives us the remainder left after the division operation, right? It's better to look at it practically. New terminal, and what should we use? Coming up with numbers is hard. 13 point. No. Let's just use 10, and we'll stick to smaller numbers in the beginning, right? 10 and this, and answer is equal to 10. This is the modulus operator, okay? This thing, percentage sign you could call it, this is the modulus operator. Now why am I using 10 here? Yeah, and then we print answer. One. What we're getting is the remainder after dividing 10 by 3. Okay, that is basically what the modulus operator is. And yeah, it's giving us the remainder. If we divide 10 by 3, 3 threes are 9, and then we get 1 as the remainder, and that is what we're getting here. You could also take another example. Take 17 and 5. What do you think the answer will be here? If you use the modulus operator on these two, what do you think the answer should be? You can take a moment to think about it. Let's run it. 2. See, because 5 threes are 15, and if we minus, because 5 threes are 15, and if we subtract 15 from 17, we get 2, and yeah, that's all it is. And it might look a little useless, because why do we need the remainders left out of division, right? What's the use of that? But it's used a lot in programming, especially when you have to check even and odd numbers. We'll probably do those programs in the future lectures, right? But when you have to check even and odd numbers, the modulus operator comes in very handy. And yeah, modulus operator returns the remainder after division, commonly used to test divisibility or determine even odd numbers, as I was saying. Check even or yeah, all of this we will do in the future when we practice programs to check even and odd, right? But the concept of this is basically, if a number is divisible by 2, right, it's even. So how do we check if a number is divisible by 2? Well, the remainder, if a number is divisible by 2 fully, then the remainder should be 0, right? So it's basically, if a number n is divisible by 2, first it performs this thing. So yeah, here it's basically, if n mod 2, if the answer is equal to 0, if the remainder after n mod 2 is 0, the remainder after dividing that number by 2 is 0, then it means n is even. otherwise it's odd. This condition is used a lot in programming. Okay, let's move on to exponentiation. Exponential function, it is used to calculate powers. You know what is right? It's basically, so the operator, the symbol for it is basically the symbol for it is two asterisk marks together, right? And shall we perform a few of these? Just new terminal. Do you We've just been giving the values, right? Shall we practice our input function alongside? Let's do it. Let's do A is equal to input enter number. This will be our number. Are you forgetting something? Alright, so we were doing, yes, so as I was saying, do you think we have forgotten something here? We are trying to perform a calculation by taking a number as an input. Can we do it just like this? Yes, we can't. We have to convert it into integer because the return type of input is string. So A is equal to input, B is equal to int input, and here we'll write enter power, because here we're inputting the power we want to raise this number to, right? And we've been using the word answer, so let's change it to result. Go to A exponential operator, two asterisks, B. Okay, and then we have to just print it, print result, right? Easy enough. So now we try to run it, and yes, it's asking for our input. Let's go with 5, enter power. Let's just start with 2 and 25. We can also, if we want to present it better, we can just write something like in the print function we could write the final answer is, or let's say the result is, since we're using the result variable anyways, the result is, and what do we have to do now? Do we just write our variable result here? Will this work? No, it won't, because we have to take a comma here. We talked about this in our previous lecture, right? So we run this. Let's enter something else. About 20. 20 raised to the power, let's do 3. And we're getting this answer. Enter number 20, enter power 3, and the result is 8000. See? That's exponentiation. It raises a number to a power, uses the double asterisk operator for powers in Python. And there are some examples. And we can use this operator to take the square, the cube. Shall we try it? We already did it actually. The square of 5 we are taking here, and then we are taking the cube of 20 here. What's that? We move on to using operators with variables. We have already been doing this actually. Operators work with variables just like with literals. Combine variables to compute values and store or print results. That is what we have been doing, right? We have already been using operators with variables here. So we move on. You could try this example. Operator precedence. Let's just start with the example for now. Okay. We'll learn through an example. Let's delete all of this and do something like let's do 2 plus 5 multiplied by 6 minus 7. So in mathematics we follow, if you remember, in mathematics we follow BODMAS, right? Bracket of multiplication, division, addition and subtraction. So do you think this will use the same concepts? What do you think will happen? Which one will run first? You can try out these separately on your notebook once. The different ways this could turn out. We'll just print answer. So let's just pause for a moment here. Commented. If we let's think a little. If we do it in order, if Python takes it in order, then 2 plus 5, it will do 2 plus 5 first, that will be 7, and then it should do 7 multiplied by 6 will be 42, and then it should do it should subtract 7 from it, right? And then it should do 42 minus 7, and that will be 35. So if it follows the order, this should be the answer. Do you think this is correct? Or do you think Python also follows some sort of rule like BODMAS does? So do you think 35 is the correct answer? Or do you think Python also follows a rule such as BODMAS? Let's try it. We run it. And the answer is 25. So yes, Python has a rule. It doesn't have the rule BODMAS, it has PEDMAS, right? So basically, parenthesis, exponential, division, multiplication, and addition and then subtraction. So yeah, if there was an exponential here, so yeah, instead of doing what so yeah, Python follows PEDMAS, as I was saying. It's parenthesis exponential division multiplication addition and then subtraction. So instead of the order in which the operators are given here, what Python does is, for this particular example, first it evaluates our multiplication, right? Because the highest precedence here, the operator with the highest precedence here is multiplication operator, because we don't have parenthesis and we don't have exponential and division here. So first it will do this, 6 into 5, 30. Then it will, what is after multiplication? Addition. Then it will add it like this and give us 32. And then it will at last perform subtraction. Wow, the spellings. Yeah. Then it will perform subtraction. 32 minus 7. And we'll get 25. And this matches our answer that we are getting, right? So yes, remember, Python also has operator precedence. Just like we have BODMAS in mathematics, here we have PEDMAS. Parenthesis, exponentiation, division, multiplication, addition, and then subtraction. So that's easy enough. If we take something else, if we let's see, we do, no, okay, wait. If we want to evaluate 2 plus 5 first, what we can do is put this in a parenthesis, because parenthesis takes precedence over multiplication. Now our compiler should execute 2 plus 5 first and then this, right? Let's run it. And now we're getting 35. We basically forced it to follow the sequence here, right? So that's that. That is our operator precedence. Python follows standard mathematical order of operations PEDMAS, parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. We already did an example. If you want to, you can try this. So yes, we move on to parentheses. Parentheses override the default order, ensuring expressions are inside are evaluated first. That is basically what we did here, right? We were getting 25 because it was ignoring the order, but if we wanted to follow the order, we can just put this thing inside the parenthesis and it will be executed first. 2 plus 5 was executed first. So it basically went 2 plus 5, and then after the parenthesis was gone, there were two operators left, multiplication and subtraction. What has a higher precedence? Multiplication. So then it went 7 into 6, 42, and then it went 42 minus 7, and thus we got 35, right? So that's that. Here are some common beginner mistakes. So yeah, here are some common beginner mistakes. Division by 0. You can't divide by 0 in mathematics, and you cannot divide by 0 in Python as well. Then obviously forgetting conversion, as I have been yapping about from the beginning. If you take an input, you have to first convert it into float or string. Wow. Yeah, so forgetting conversion, as I have been telling you from the beginning, if you take an input, then you have to convert it into int or float. Otherwise, it just takes it as a string, right? If you're taking a number for input. If you're taking a string for input, then obviously it doesn't matter if you want a string. So you have to use int or float before you use arithmetic. Then, yeah, beginners could also confuse the division and the floor division operators, and you could always miss a parenthesis. You have to ensure that you have opened a parenthesis and closed the parenthesis if you're using those. So yeah, division by 0. So these come in the mistakes that beginners make. We saw one thing that was division by 0, and I'll talk about it in detail in the future. But since we are doing division, I'll just explain it briefly. Division by 0 comes inside a specific type of error in programming, and that is runtime error. Basically, here it's not showing us any error, right? It's not showing us any error right now. Otherwise, it usually throws an error by now if anything is wrong, but it's not. And if we run it, now we are getting this error, 0 division error, division by 0. It only shows up after we have run our program. So technically, right now Python can't tell that this is wrong and that this won't work. It only shows up after we run it. So there is a whole, I'll probably make a whole separate section on runtime errors and compile time errors, all of those in the future. I just wanted to tell you this since we just did division anyways. And let's try some examples now. Let's see, let's kill this. New terminal. We'll basically use it to sort of use everything that we learned in this lesson, right? We'll just write a single program. Let's do num1. Oh, just remember, we can't do this. This is not a valid variable in Python. You can't leave space inside a variable, okay? You could do this, right? Or you could do this. So that's that. And what? Yeah, because we haven't defined the variable yet. Anyways, we do num1 is equal to int input, because we can't take an input if we are trying to. We can't just take an input without converting it if we want to perform calculations using operators. We enter, please enter the first number, then num2 int input, please enter the second number, and then we'll just use everything that we have learned here. Addition is equal to then comma, don't forget the comma, num1 plus num2, and then we can do print subtraction is equal to num1 minus num2, print addition subtraction to multiplication is equal to num1 multiplied by num2, print division is equal to num1 divided by num2, and floor division is equal to, what was the operator for floor division? Do you remember? Yes, this was it. 2. Then we can print floor division modulus. Modulus is equal to, do you remember the symbol for modulus? It's this. 2. And then we print the last operator that we learned, exponential is equal to 1. Do you remember the symbol for the exponential operator? It's 2 asterisk 2. And we run this code. Let's enter the first number. We'll just use simple numbers here. Let's just use 10 and 5 so that we don't get confused. Yes, we have got an answer. This is everything that we learned today. Addition is 15, subtraction, multiplication, division, float value, even though we input integer because division returns a float value, then floor division, and then modulus because there is no remainder here. Then we get exponential. This will be 10 to the power of 5. And yes, this was just a nice little compilation of all that we learned today. These are some practice questions. I advise you to try these by yourself first and then look at the solution that I'm giving, right? It's better, since these are practice questions, it's better to try yourself first. If you can't do it, you can just watch the video, watch me do it. First, let's delete this and open a new terminal. Let's save this one, right? It's such a long program. Lecture 3 practice. This is how you can make a new file. Yeah. Okay, so our first question is to add two numbers. We have already done a lot of practice for addition, so we'll just keep it simple here. And we go 5 plus 6, two numbers added, and we get our answer 11. Perfect. The next question is to find the difference between two numbers, find the product of two numbers, then to find the quotient of two numbers, and then to find the remainder after division. We know how to do these, right? Print. If you want to find the difference, we just use this. And if we want to find the product, then we just do this. And if we want to find the quotient, then we'll just divide these. And do you remember how to find the remainder after division? What do we use to find the remainder after division? Modulus 2. And let's print this, and we get our answers. See, 5 minus 2, 5 multiplied by 2, 5 divided by 2, and to find the remainder 1. Because 2 2s are 4, then 5 minus 4 is 1. So that's that. The next question is to find the square of a number. This time let's take an input from the user. We'll go a is equal to input, enter number. Are we forgetting something here? We have to convert it. We have to convert it into int. And then we can just use square is equal to a into a, because what does square mean? Multiplying the number by itself, right? We can do this, and we could also, so one way is this, and the other way obviously we know, just use the exponential operator to raise it to the power of 2. Let's do both, right? Let's see if our answer differs or something like that. Let's name this one expo and a exponential 2, and print square and print expo, and then we run it. Because we didn't delete this or put it into comments, we still get this, right? Don't get confused. Enter a number. Let's just use a simple number. Let's use 5. Let's enter, and yes, this thing and this thing can both be used to find the square. Just as we can, if we want to find the cube, we can just do this. But obviously the easier thing to do is just to use the exponential operator. So that's that. And our last question is to calculate the average of three numbers. So for this one, let's take a new terminal. Let's clear our screen, right? We'll again take an input from the user. By now we know that we have to convert the input into integer, right? Enter first number. Let's leave a space here for presentation purposes. Num2 converted into integer. Enter second number. Num3 int input. Enter third number. And then, do you remember how we calculate the average of a number? Yes, it's to take the sum of all numbers and then to divide it by the total number of numbers, right? Basically, what we have to do is, let's comment it, and to find the average, we have to first take the sum of numbers, and then we have to divide it by the total number of numbers. How many numbers are there? 3 numbers, so we divide it by 3. Okay, so let's take a variable average, and we can just do it all. We could also take different variables to first add the 3 numbers and then divide it by the total number of numbers, but we can also do it all at once using parentheses, right? Do num1 plus num2 plus num3. So since we used parentheses, wait, total number of numbers 3. So why we using parentheses here? Because we just learned about PEDMAS, the precedence, right? Since we use the parentheses here, first it will add all of these numbers, solve the parentheses first, and then divide it by 3. If we don't use the parentheses here, then it will divide first, because parentheses, exponential, division, multiplication, and then addition, right? So technically division takes precedence over addition, right? So if we don't use parentheses here, then we won't get our answer correctly. So that's what we do, and then we'll print average. We can also do something like the average is, and our variable name, and we print it. Enter first number. Wait, let's open a new terminal because it was getting a bit cluttered. So we run it. Enter first number, 5, 12, 14. Now we press enter, and yes, we have got an average. Okay, and of course, if we want only, what should I do if I don't want this decimal here? What can I do then? I will then use floor division instead of normal division, and I run this. We'll use the same numbers, 5, 12, and 14, and enter, and we get only 10, and we don't get the decimal point and all of this. So this is how floor division can be handy, right? And that is it for our lecture. Today we learned what operators are, what operands are, and what expressions are, the different types of operators, and we learned how operator precedence works, and we learned some common mistakes that beginners could make. And yes, the next lecture will have assignment operators, comparison operators, and logical operators. That's it for today. Thank you.